Happy Halloween! Professor Eric von Frankenbadger here, scientist, explorer and teddy bear taxidermist. So, for your spooky goings on this Halloween, I'm going to give you a little workshop in how to create your own teddy bear taxidermy. So, what is taxidermy? Well, kind of like my friend Bernard here, okay? He's some kind of an antelope, I'm not entirely sure. He's very old, he's been around a long time. Look at the length of those horns. Okay, and as you can see, he's mounted on a wooden plaque at the back there. So it just looks like the head is coming straight out of the wall. Okay, so underneath, you can see our own little attempt here. So this is our teddy bear taxidermy. So this crazy looking fellow is a monkey gruffalo hybrid. Okay, and you can see he's got tusks, he's got crazy eyes, and he's got antlers. Okay, and he's been mounted on a little wooden plaque, just exactly the same as the one we have up here. Alright, so let's have a look at what materials we're going to need to make one of these ourselves. So first of all, we're going to need some teddy bears as our victims. So I just got a bunch of these out of a charity shop. We are going to be cutting them up, basically. So don't use something that you're very attached to. Use some kind of old teddy, or just pick yourself up something from a charity shop. Okay. So we want to add some fantastical features to these bears. So there's a couple of things we're going to need. So we'll need some things to embellish our teddy bears with, make them look spooky, like fantastical creatures. These are very good. I found these in, once again, that store where everything is the same price. They're supposed to be pumpkin teeth, but these will make fantastic fangs, tusks, horns, anything else that we like if we separate them out. Okay, so those are ready to go. If you want to have more of a go of doing it yourself, we can get some twigs, okay, from the garden, like this, and those make perfect antlers. The way that they branch off with the wee forks like this means that we can wrap these up in string to make them look more like bone, and they can be antlers just like we'd see on a trophy mount. An alternative to that is bamboo skewers, these kind of barbecue skewers. You can pick them up in the shops, and we can wrap them up if you just want like a single straight horn, like an antelope has, or like a unicorn, if that's the direction you want to go in. You'll need some tape, a ball of string. If you want to add some colour, you could use a ball of coloured wool or something like that. And we're also going to need some glue to stick everything together. Now, there's various types of glue we can use. This stuff here is an elastic glue. You can pick it up in that same shop. And this stuff is nice and thick when it comes out of the tube. It's not runny, so it doesn't go everywhere and make strings. It's like a gel, so you can just get a little bead of it in place, and it sets reasonably quickly, 5 or 10 minutes. So we might have to set things aside for 5 or 10 minutes to dry before we can get on with other things. Also some boggly eyes, they're always funny. We can replace the teddy bear's eyes with these, and also buttons. Okay, they make great spooky eyes for teddy bears. So we've got a whole variety of different colours and shapes of buttons here, and we can mix and match. We're also going to need a pair of scissors to cut pieces out of our teddy bears. So we can mix them up together, and a needle and thread to sew them back together again. Okay, that's everything we're going to need. Let's get started. Okay then, so I have chosen my victim here. So I'm going to want to embellish this guy with some antlers, maybe some fangs, and give him some boggly eyes. And I just want to mount the head, basically, to make it look like those kind of trophy pieces of taxidermy. Okay, so we just want to cut through the fur then, just below where the head is. We don't want to cut it just exactly where. We need a little bit of spare fabric, so when we sew it together, we make sure that the stuffing doesn't fall out. So I'm just going to get the scissors in a little bit below the kind of neck where the head joins onto the body, and just cut right around through that. Okay, so a little snip with the very tip of the scissors will get you a little gap that you can get the scissors into, and then we can just cut round. Okay, so you can see that's just about a centimetre down from where the head is. So we've got a little bit of room to sew them back up again. Okay, now this will mean that we got the body and the head and the legs left over, but we can always do a bit of Frankensteining with that later and join a couple of different types of teddy bear together to create new creatures. Okay, so it's a little bit hard getting through the seams sometimes over the arms and things like that with the different bits joined together, so you may need someone a bit stronger to give you a slight hand. One last stitch. Oh! And Teddy's lost his head. Okay? A little beanbag in there. Okay, so I'll set that aside for later. And there's our head, so I'm just going to stuff that back in there. And you see the way we've got a bit of a ragged hole there. So we just want to seal that up with a needle and thread so that the stuffing doesn't come out. Right, stay there. Okay then, so we just need to sew this up to get rid of that ragged hole. So to make sure that we don't see the thread from the outside, we'll make our first stitch on the inside here. Now we need to make sure that the thread is attached so that when we're pulling through, we're not just pulling it right out. So we put a little stitch on the inside, just like that. Pull it and leave about a centimetre or 2 centimetres maybe of thread there, and put another stitch in exactly the same place. Okay, and we just kind of go back over that 2 or 3 times. This is the way you always start any piece of sewing. Okay, and by the time we've gone through over exactly the same stitch 3 or 4 times, that's really solid. You know, I can pull on that and the thread's not coming through. So now I can actually start to do the stitches. So just want to gather them in a little bit, and you're just stitching from one side across to the other, avoiding sticking the needle in your thumb, obviously. Okay, and just one at a time, in one side, out the other, and pull that through. So it's not going to take very many stitches to close a small hole like this. We'll just make sure that we're pulling it tight each time. Okay, so that's going to do us there. And then we do the same thing as we did at the start to finish off. So we put a little stitch through, and then we just do another couple of stitches in exactly the same place. Okay, again, by the time we've done that 2 or 3 times, that's completely solid. And we can cut the thread off. Okay, so we've got them all neat now, and the stuffing isn't going to come out. So now we just need to think about our different embellishments that we're going to do. We're going to put some eyes, spooky eyes on them now, make them look a bit more interesting. So my glue that I was using earlier, this stuff here, and it's probably easier to put a blob of glue on his, see these hard plastic eyes, but this stuff will stick to cloth as well. So if you've got a teddy bear that maybe has embroidered eyes, this stuff sticks anything to anything, pretty much. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little blob on there. And we can put a boggly eye directly onto that. Okay. And then I find it funny to use different sizes of boggly eye. So we got one big one, one small one. But I'm also going to stick this one onto a button first. Okay, so we got that red colour going in there as well. So, blob of glue on the button. Put our little boggly eye onto that. Okay, I'll deliberately not put that in the middle, it'll make him look a bit crazier. And again, we just want a blob of glue on the plastic eye there that we can then stick our button onto. Okay, excellent. That has improved his looks massively. So I'm going to set him aside for this glue to dry. That'll take about 10 minutes or so. And while I'm doing that, I'll get on with making the antlers that I'm going to be putting on him here. Okay, so with the glue drying then, we can get on with making our antlers and horns. So here's ones I have, just to show you. So there's an antler on the top there. Okay, so it's just a stick that's been wrapped around a string to make it look like bone. The bottom one, more of a straight horn, like you'd see on a unicorn or something like that. Okay, so they're both just wrapped string around a stick. So I'll do the horn first, because that's just a little bit easier. We're going to need our string and tape and our glue for afterwards. Now, it's going to be fairly unavoidable when we're making this that we're going to get the glue on our fingers. Okay, so this glue won't do you any harm, but just have a cloth around. Okay, wipe the fingers off as soon as it's on there, and then we won't get it on our clothes or on our hair or on your mother's sofa, for which she will not forgive me. So bamboo skewer, it's got a pointy end, so that's going to be the end of my horn. So I need to decide what length I want that to be. So I might be making a tusk, so it's only short. I might be making some great big long horns, like a unicorn's horn. Okay, so we want something a bit bigger. We need a piece of tape, just a short piece. Okay, and I'm going to place the piece of tape just where I want the end of the horn to be. So that's just a couple of inches down from the sharp tip. I'm going to take my string, and I'm going to leave the string on the roll because I don't know how much of it I'm going to need. And I'm going to point the end of the string up towards the spike. Okay, you can see that. And just use the tape to wrap that on. Now, because we do it this way, that means that once we start wrapping, and that's just a case of turning the bamboo and holding the string, we can use the wrapped string to cover over the tape and the extra bit of string that we have lying along the side. So you should find by just turning it with one hand and moving the other hand slowly, the one that's holding the string, you can just nice and easily cover all of that up. Okay, and it sits just nicely alongside itself and covers the stick completely. Now don't worry about getting it completely even. Horns don't look completely even anyway. They are organic objects. So we want to go up just not quite to the top. We want to leave that spike and just start coming back down again. Okay, you get a nice spiral look if I move this hand a little bit faster. And what we want to do is build up the bottom a little bit more. So it's going to be thicker at the bottom, like horns always are, and tapering slightly, getting thinner towards the top. So a bit extra on the bottom to make a big lump. And then we just want to try and taper that off. That's fine if it looks a little lumpy, because that's exactly what real horns look like. Okay, so I'm going to come back down and put a little bit more at the bottom here. Okay, that's perfect. So I'm just going to put a finger on there to hold it. And at this point, this is when I need my glue. So this stuff's nice and thick, like I say, so we can just put a blob on there. And then we wrap the string through that a couple of times to hold it. Okay. So at this point, I can snip that extra off. And then I'm just going to have to smooth the glue over the string so it's held. Okay. So this is why I need my cloth. So I can just wipe that off again. Okay, so that's two of them. Okay, so those will make a nice set of horns, or I could use one of them for a unicorn. So let's have a look at doing the same thing with our stick. Okay, we'll go for this one here. That matches up nicely with the one I've already done. So same thing. We want a piece of tape. And we need to leave ourselves a bit of room here so that can actually be inserted into the teddy's head. So leave yourself an inch or so. So we'll put the tape here. Again, I want the end of the string to face towards what's going to be the tip. So in this case, this is the tip of the antlers. Use the tape to hold it. And then just start wrapping. Again, it's automatically covering up the tape and the string to leave it looking really neat. Okay, so just try to make sure that it's solid white, that we don't have any bits of the black showing through. Sometimes it means we'll have to go back over a little bit. And once we get to one of the forks, we just start to go on one of the branches. And we can just use one piece of string. We just go up and down each one of these separate branches. So I want to stop again just a little bit short of the end so the string doesn't actually come off. Back down again. Definitely more awkward than the bamboo skewer. Okay, so now I've come back down to this fork and start going up again. And you can see again, I'm covering over that string. Okay, so it looks like I've got a little bit extra to cover just here. So make sure I come down far enough to do that. That's perfect. And now I'm ready for the glue again. So once more, a little blob, this nice thick gel-like stuff. Wrap it through the glue a couple of times. Snip that off. And then just to make sure the end is totally sealed, just smooth that off. Okay, ideal. That's perfect. Okay, so we're ready to go get the Teddy's head again and start putting these on. Here's Teddy's head again with his eyes. I'm going to go with the horns for this one because I did antlers already and I can show you both at the end. These are way too long. Okay, so I need to make sure there's about maybe 1.5 inches or so on these so that I can push them into Teddy's head. These things will usually just snap quite easily because they're only made of bamboo, or you can cut them with scissors. Get them to about the same length, and then I'm probably going to put these just above the ears here. So we need to take the scissors and just make a little snip in the right place. Okay, it's not going to need to be very big, we just want a small hole, and I should be able to just push that in. Push that in and just get it to sit in the stuffing, okay? If you just try and push it as it is, you'll just compact all the stuffing and it won't work. And then we just need to snip another little hole there in exactly the same place on the other side, so that the horns are going to be even and come from the same place. Okay, just twist and push that in. Okay, here's our fearsome Ted. Now, if you need to, we can maybe put a little dab of glue around the top of these. Okay, these will probably hold okay. If we pull it out slightly and just put a tiny bit of glue there and then push it back in. That's going to hold it in place without being seen. Same thing here, out a little bit, tiny dab of glue, and just push that back in and the glue will hold it in place. Okay, lid back on the glue. So one last thing before I mount him on his base, I want to give him some fangs. So these pumpkin teeth that I was showing you earlier, we can maybe separate some of these out. Could use them as they are, but we can separate them out into single fangs. Now you might need a bit of help with this. These are a bit more solid than I thought they were going to be. But with a decent pair of scissors, we can kind of twist, okay? And it should break off easily enough. Okay then, so we've got two good fangs we can use now. So I'm going to need to use the scissors again, because I want to be placing these just in his mouth there. Okay, so again, just a little snip with the scissors along the mouth line, just using the very tip of them. Okay, that should be enough. I'll just check to see if that's going to fit. Okay. The cloth will move a little bit if we need it to, so we can kind of squeeze things into place. Now if I want that to stay in there, I am once again going to need a blob of glue on the top. Okay, so I'm just going to put a blob of glue on the top and that little flat end. And then just work it back in the way it was. Okay, so the glue will definitely hold that into position. So I'm just going to leave him sitting there for a little while, 10 minutes or so, until the glue dries, and then I'm ready to put him on his base. So now it's time to mount our treasured trophy onto the board. So here I've got one of these little mini chopping boards that I found in the shops. Otherwise we can use cork, wooden drinks coaster, something like that. There's bound to be something that will do the job. So I want to decide where I want to place my teddy trophy. Okay, so somewhere about the middle I would say, and this rather neatly has a little hole at the top for mounting it to the wall, which is perfect. So we're going to need to use our glue again here. Now if you have one, the ideal thing for this would be a hot glue gun, because it sticks instantly. This stuff is going to take a little while to stick, but it will certainly do the job, sticking wood to cloth, no problem. So I'm going to put a good big blob of this glue in the middle. Put that out in a circle. Okay. And I'll place my bear on in the position I want them to be. I'm just going to twist him into that a little bit and let him go so he sits up. Okay. Now it may be that I need to set something beside him just to kind of hold him in position. He's kind of falling over to one side just at the moment, so I've got my little tower of googly eyes I can set there just to make sure that he stays straight while the glue dries. So I just want to leave that alone for at least an hour or more to make sure that it completely dries. Okay, we want a decent amount of glue on there to hold him in place. Okay, so that's us. I'm going to come back in a moment once he's dried. I'll hang him up on the wall and you can see a couple of my creations that'll maybe give you some ideas. So here we have them all mounted up on the wall. Got our teddy with the horns and our chimp Gruffalo hybrid with the antlers and the tusks. Okay, so just a simple nail knocked into the wall is enough to hang them up and display them proudly. In the process of making these, you obviously have a few bits and pieces left over. So I've done some Frankensteining here and joined a few teddy bears together to make some unholy creations. We've got a snake with a lion's head and saber tooth. And we've got a dinosaur here with fangs and gorilla's arms. Okay, so maybe you can come back to the workshop sometime and I'll show you how to make these. In the meantime, have a happy Halloween at home and keep it spooky.